Even though he hesitated in speaking to her in presence of her mother, he realized with himself the emergency of the situation and said, "Listen to my advice, O princess, and do not misunderstand me. If you wish well as of yourself, please accept my suggestion and stay at home. You will be obeying my orders and rendering services to your mother in law. By remaining at home, O good lady, you will be benefited in every way. For a woman, there is no other duty more sacred and than reverently adoring the feet of her husband's parents. Whenever my mother thinks of me and feeling disconsolate due to her love for me losses her balance of mind, do your consolate her, my love, with soothing words, my by narrating old legend to her. I tell you sincerely and solemnly, uh, it is for my mother's sake, O charming lady, that I leave you here. By staying at home in deference to my wishes, you will you will easily obtain the reward of virtue approved of by one's elders and Vedas, whereas by giving themselves over the sake obduracy or the sake Galwa, King Nosha, and all others suffer great hardship. The sake obduracy means what do you mean by the obduracy? Obduracy, obduracy, obduracy means obduracy, obduracy, obduracy. You say Zid. Okay, Shriram, Shriram. As for myself, listen, O fair and the sensible lady. I will soon return after redeeming my father's words. Day will steal away quickly. Therefore, heed my advice, O charming lady. If on the one hand you persist in your obstinacy due to your affection to me, O pretty one, you will be eventually come to grief. The forest is rough and most dreadful with his terrible heat, cold, and blast. The tracks are beset with prickly grass and thorns and stones of the various kinds, and you will have to tread them without any shoes. Your lotus like feet are delicate and lovely, while the paths are most difficult and intercepted by the huge mountains, caves in the chashmas, streams, rivers, and the rivulets that are unapproachable, unfathomable, and terrible to look at. Bears and tigers, wolves, lions, and elephants raise such a cry as staggers one's presence of mind. The ground will be your couch and bark of tree your raiment, and bulbs, fruits, and roots will be your food. And do you think even these latter will be available to you all the year round? You will get everything according to its seasons. Man-eating demons roam about in the wood and assumes all sorts of the deceptive forms. The water of the hill is exceedingly unwholesome. The hardship of the forest are beyond all description. There are terrible serpents and ferocious wild birds and multitudes of demons who steal both man and the woman. The boldest shudder at the very thought of the forest, while you, a fawn-eyed lady, are timid by nature. You are not fit for the wood, O fair lady. The world will revile me when they hear that I am taking you to the forest. Can a female Kajant who has been brought up in the nectarine water of the Mansa lake live in the salt water of the ocean? Can a cuckoo that had made many in years a young mango grew have its appropriate place in the thickest of the Karela bushes? Pondering this in your heart, stay at home, O moon faced lady. The hardship of the forest are great. He who does not reverently follow the advice of the disinterested friends, preceptors, and master has to repent fully at the heart and surely harms himself. And Sita heard the soft and the winning words of her beloved lord, her lovely eye filled with tears. His soothing advice proved so scorching to her as moon lit autumnal night to the female Chakraka bird. Videha daughter could make no answer. She was filled with agony to think that her pious and pious and loving Lord leave her behind, would leave her behind, would leave her behind, perforce restraining her tears. This earth daughter took courage and throwing herself at her mother-in-law's feet, spoke to her with her two palms joined together. Forgive, O venerable Devi, my great impudence. The Lord of my life has tendered me only such advice as is conducive to my best interest. I have, however, pondered within myself and realized that there is no calamity in this world as great as being torn away from one's beloved Lord. O Lord of my life, O abode of mercy, handsome, genial, and wise, O moon for the lily like rays of the Raghu, without you heaven would be an obnoxious as hell. Father and mother, sister and dear brother, beloved kinsmen and friends, father in law and mother in law, preceptor and relatives, aliens and even sons, however good looking, well behaved, and congenial, nay, whatever ties of affection and kinship there exist to a woman bereft of her beloved Lord, they are far from tormenting than the scorching sun. Life, riches, houses, land, city, and kingdom, all these are mere accountments of woe to the woman bereft of her lord. Luxury to her is loathsome like a disease, and ornaments a burden, while the world is like the torment of hell. Without you, O Lord of my life, nothing in this world is delightful to me, as the body without a soul, and a river without water, even so. My Lord is a woman without her husband. In your company, my Lord, I shall be happy in every way so long as behold your countenance resembling the cloudless moon of a autumnal night. Birds and beasts will be my kindred, the forest my city, and the bark of tree my spotless robes. And a hut of leaf is the company of my Lord will be comfortable as the abode of gods. A generous hearted servant gods and goddess will care of me like my own father in law and mother in law. A charming litter of grass and tender leaf will be in company of my lord. We with Cupid own lovely cushion. Bulbs, roots, and fruits will be my ambrosial food, while mountain will be as good as 100 royal mansions of Ayodhya. Gazing on the lotus feet of my lord, every moment I shall remain as cheerful as female Chakravaka bird during the daytime. You have mentioned a number of hardship and perils, woes and afflictions attendant with forest life, but all these put together will hardly compare with iota of the peonage of separation from my Lord. O fountain of mercy, bear this in mind. O creased veil of wise men, take me with you. Pray do not leave me behind. I refrain from making a lengthy submission, my Lord, knowing as I do that you are all merciful and have access to the hearts of all. If you leave me Ayodhya till the expiry of your exile, you may rest assured that I shall not survive, O friends of the afflicted, O handsome and the congenial Lord, O storehouse of the amiability and affection. As I walk along the road, I shall know the fatigue gazing on your lotus feet. All the while, I shall render all sort of service to my beloved Lord yourself, and shall relieve him of all the toil occasioned by the journey. Leaving your feet and resting in the shade of a tree, I shall fan you with a cheerful heart, beholding your swarthy form, bedwetted with sweet and casting a look on the Lord of my life. I can have no occasion of for grief, spreading grass and leaf of tree or an even patch of ground. This handmaid of your will need your feet overnight. Even as I gaze on your tender form again and again, hot wind will have no effect on me. Who can dare look at me when I am beside of my Lord any more than a hare or jackal would regard a loneliness. How true is that I am the delicate body, while my Lord is fit to bear the hardship of the forest life, that it beholds you to undergo penis while it is worthwhile for me to toil in luxuries. When my heart did not resent even on hearing such cruel words, I am sure my wretched self shall live to bear the terrible pain of separation from my Lord. So, saying Sita was overwhelmed with distress, she could not bear her Lord's separation even in words. Seeing her condition, the Lord of Raghu was convinced in his heart of heart that if left behind against her will, she would not survive. The all merciful Lord of the solar race therefore said, give up lamentation and accompany me to the forest. Grief is out of season today. Prepare yourself for the journey to the woods at once, consolidating his beloved consort with these endearing words. The Lord threw himself at his mother's feet and receiving her blessings. Pray, return soon and relieve the people. And consort with this in the Lord threw himself at his mother's feet and received her blessing. Pray, return, son, and relieve the people distress and see that your heartless mother is not forgotten. Shall the tide of my fortune ever turn, O goodness, that I may behold the charming pair with my eye again, when my dear son will arrive, the auspicious day and blessed hour, that your mother shall live to see your moon-like countenance. When again shall I call you my darling, my pet child, O Lord of Raghu, O chief of the Raghu race, my boy, and summoning you clasp you to my bosoms and gaze upon your limbs with delight. Seeing that his mother was too overwhelmed with emotion to speak any more and was greatly agitated, Sri Rama consolated her in various ways. The gravity of the occasion and the intensity of affection was more than one could describe. Janka's daughter then threw herself at her mother-in-law's feet and said, I tell you, mother, I am most unlucky in that at a time when I should have served you, heaven has exalted me to the forest and has refused to grant my desires. Pray be not perturbed any more, but at the same time cease not to entertain kindly feeling towards me. Relentless is fate, and there is no fault of mine either. The mother-in-law was too so distressed to hear Sita's words that I have no word to describe her conditions. Again and again she pressed her daughter-in-law to her breast and recovering herself, admonished and blessed her. May the blessed state of your wifehood, the lovely longevity of your husband know no break and endure so long as the stream of Ganga and Yamuna continue to flow. The mother-in-law blessed and admonished Sita in various ways, and the latter parted from her most affectionately, bowing her head at her lotus feet again and again. When Lakshmana got the news, he started up in confusion and ran with a doleful face, trembling all over with his hair standing and an eye full of tears. He clasped Sri Rama's feet and, excited with emotions, he was unable to speak and stood gazing piteously like a fish taken out of water. There was anxiety in his heart. What is going to happen, O good heavens? He said to himself, all my joy and the merits are over now. What will the Lord of Raghu command me to do? Will he leave me at home or take me with him? When Sri Rama saw his brother with joined palm, having renounced his house and reckless about his own body, he addressed him in the following words, well versed as he was in the rule of correct behavior and an ocean of amiability, love, heartlessness, and joy. Pray do not lose your balance of mind out of affection, dear brother, and be convinced in your heart that the end will be the happy one. Those who reverently and unconstantly follow the advice of their father and the mother, preceptor and master, have reaped the fruit of their birth, of else their coming into the world that been in vain. Bearing this in mind, brother, listen to my advice and wait upon the feet of your father and the mother. Bharata and the Ripu Sutna Shatrugna are not at home, while the king is aged and full of grief for my sake. If I proceed to the wood, taking you with me, Ayodhya will be rendered completely masterless, and the preceptor and parents, the people as well as the family, all will be the subject to spell of terrible suffering. Stay then to control, comfort all. Otherwise, brother, we shall incur great sin. A king whose reign bring suffering to the beloved people surely deserves an abode in the hell. Bearing in this mind this maxim, dear brother, stay at home. Hearing this, Lakshmana felt much distress. He turned pale at these soothing words in the same way as a lotus is blasted when touched by forest frost. Overwhelmed with emotion, he could not answer, but clasped his brother's feet in anguish. My lord, I am your slave, and you my master. If you abandon me, what help? My lord, you have given me a sound advice, but due to my faint-heartedness, it sounded impracticable to me. Only those noble men who are self-possessed and champion the cause of virtue are fit to be taught the gospel of the Vedas and moral philosophy. I am your child, fostered by your loving care. Can a giant lift Mount Mandara or Meru? I know no preceptor, nor father, nor mother. I tell you sincerely, believe me, my lord, whatever ties of affection, love, and confidence exist in the world, as declared by the Vedas, for me they are all centered in you and you alone. My lord, O friend of the afflicted, O knower of the innermost heart of all, piety and the propriety should be taught to him who is fond of glory, fortune, and the noble destiny. Piety and the property should be taught to him who is fond of glory, fountain, and the noble destiny. Fortune, piety, and property. For he, however, who is devoted to your feet in thought, words, and deed, should he be abandoned, O ocean of the grace. Hearing these soft and the polite words of his the noble brother, uh, thought, words, and deed. He who is devoted to your feet in thoughts, words, and deed. He is devoted to your feet in thoughts, words. Should he be abundant, O ocean of grace? Hearing these soft and the polite words of his noble brother, the all compassionate Lord clasped him to his bosom and enclosed him, perceiving that he had lost his nerve through love. Go and ask leave of your mother, then quickly return and accompany me to the woods. Lakshmana rejoiced to hear these words from the chief of Raghu. Great was his gain and mighty loss was averted. He went up to his mother's delighted at heart as the blind man who has regained their lost vision. Approaching her by her, he bowed his head at her feet, while his heart was with Sri Rama, the delighter of the Raghuras, and Janka's daughter. Finding him depressed in spirit, the mother inquired the reasons. When Lakshmana When Lakshmana related at length the whole incident, Sumitra was shocked to hear this cruel report. As the doe, on finding wildfire all about her, Lakshmana approached that things would take a wrong turn that day, and that his mother would frustrate this plan due to her affection. He therefore felt nervous and hesitated in asking leave of her, for her thought within himself, God will she allow me to accompany Sri Rama or not? Remembering the beauty, amiability, and noble disposition of Sri Rama and Sita, and considering the king's affection for him, Sumitra beat her head as she perceived that the wicked queen had played him false. Perceiving that the time was unpropitious to them, she collected herself and, possessing as she did a naturally good heart, spoke in gentle words, My dear sons, Vidya's daughter is your mother, while Rama, who loves you in every way, is your father. Ayodhya is there where Rama dwells. There alone is the day where there is a sunlight. If Sita and the Rama are really proceeding to the wood, you have no business in Ayodhya. One's preceptors, parents, brothers, gods, and master, all these should be tended as one owns life. Rama, however, is dearer than life, the soul of our soul, and the disinterested friend of all. Whoever are worthy of adorations and most dear to us should be accounted as such only is so far they are related to Rama. Bring this is mind, accompany him in the forest. One's preceptor, parents, brother, gods, and the master, all these should be tamed as one's own life. Rama, however, is dearer than life, the soul of our soul, and the disinterested friends are to all. Whoever are worthy of adoration and most dear to us should be accounted as such only is so far they are related to Rama. Uh, Whoever are worthy of adoration most dear to us should be accounted as such only so far they are related to Rama. Bearing this is mind, accompany him to the forest and derive, my boy, the benefit of your existence in the world. It is your great good fortune as well as mine. I solemnly declare that your mind has sincerely taken up its abode in Rama's feet. Then that woman alone can be said to have borne a male issue, whose son is a devotee of Rama, the Lord of Raghu. Otherwise, she had daughter remained issueless, for she who deemed herself fortunate in having a son hostile to Rama has yearned in vain. It is due to your good fortune that Rama is proceeding to the forest. There is no other ground for his doing so, my boy. The highest reward of all meritorious acts is verily this to have spontaneous love to the feet of the woman alone can be said to have, otherwise she had better remain issueless, for she who deemed herself fortunate to having son hostile to Rama has yearned in vain. It is due to your good fortune that Rama is proceeding to the forest. There is no other ground for his doing so, my boy. The highest reward of all meritorious acts is verily this to have spontaneous love for the feet of Sita and Rama. Never give a way, even in a dream, to passion, anger, jealousy, arrogance, and infatuation, giving up all sort of morbid feeling. Serve them in thought, words, and deed. You will be the happy in every way in the forest, since you will have with your father and mother in Rama and Sita. Take care, my son. The Rama may be the put no trouble in the wood. That is my admonition to you. My admonition to you, dear child, is that it is up to you to see the Rama and Sita lead a happy life in the forest through your good office and forget their father and mother, near and dear ones, as well as the amenity of the city life. Having thus admonished, the Lord of Tulsidas, Lakshmana Sumitra granted him leave to accompany Sri Rama and the invoked her blessings on him. May your devotion to the feet of the Sita and the hero of Raghurace be constant and untrained and uh, and and ever new. Bowing his head his mother's feet, Lakshmana laughed at once with timid heart, approaching any further development that might bulk his plans and interfere with his accompany Sri Rama to the forest. It looked as if the deer and the luckily succeeded in the bursting a strong snare and made good his escape. Lakshmana went straight to where the lord of the Janka's daughter was. He was glad at heart to find himself in the company of his beloved brother. Going to the charming feet of Sri Rama and Sita, he accompanied them to the king's palace. The man and the woman of the city said to one another, "How strange that God well nigh fulfill our hopes and then shattered them." With emaciated body, a sorrowful heart, and a doleful face, they felt miserable as a bee that has been robbed of its honey. They wrung their hands, beat their heads, and lamented like birds that had been clipped of their wings and were restless without them. A huge crowd had collected at the entrance of the royal palace, and there was an untold grief which knew no bound. The minister Sumitra raised the king and seated him, communicated to him the agreeable news that the Sri Rama had come. When he saw the two sons with Sita, his distress was profound. The king felt much agitated as he gazed on his two sons with Sita. Overwhelmed with the emotion, he pressed them to his bosom again and again. The king was too restless to speak. There was terrible agony in his heart due to excess of grief. Most affectionately bowing his head at his father's feet, the hero of Raghuresh then arose and asked his permission to proceed to the wood. Father, give me your blessings and commands. Any why should you be sorrowing at the hour of the jubilations? By swearing from the part of the duty due to attachment for a beloved object. Dear father, one reputation is lost and obloquy incurred. Hearing this, the king got up in in his love and holding Sri Rama, the Lord of Raghu, by the arm, he made him sit down and said, "Listen, my boy, of you." The sages declare that the Rama is the Lord of the entire creation, both animate and inanimate. God requisite our actions according as they are good or bad, weighing them in the scale of his judgment. He alone who does an act reap its consequences, such is the law of Vedas, and so declared all. But in the case we find that one commits the offense and the other reaps the fruit. Highly mysterious as the ways of the God. No one in this world is competent to know them. The king sincerely tried every means to detain the Sri Rama, but he discovered Sri Rama's intention and came to know that he was not going to stay a champion of the rightness, strong-minded and the foresighted as he was. The king thereupon clasped Sita to his bosom and most lovingly admonished her in many ways. He described the terrible hardship of the forest life and explained to her the comforts she would enjoy if she chose to stay with her husband's parents or her own father. Sita's mind, however, was attached to Sri Rama's feet, hence neither home seems attractive to her nor the forest repulsive. Everyone else too expostulated with Sita's dwelling on the many miseries of the forest. The minister Sumitra's wife, as well as the preceptor Vashishta and the other prudent ladies, fondly urged he is gentle tone. Her in gentle tones. Nobody has exiled you to the forest, therefore, do as your husband, parents, and the preceptor bid you. This advice, soothing, friendly, agreeable, and tender as it was, did not sound pleasing to the Sita's ear. It seemed as if the touch of the rays of the autumnal moon had made a female Chakrata bird restless. Sita was too modest to give any reply, but Kaikeyi flared up on hearing this talk. She bought, uh, he bought hermit robe, uh, ornaments and vessels, and placing them before Sri Rama addressed him in soft accents. You are dear as life to the king, O hero of Raghuline. He is too soft to shake off this scruple and attachment to you. He would soon forfeit his virtue, good reputation, and his happiness in this world, then ask you to the proceed to the woods. Bearing this mind, do as you please. Sri Rama rejoiced to hear his stepmother's admonitions, but her words praised the king like shafts. Will my raged will will my raged life never depart? He said to himself. The people felt much distress, while the king fainted. No one knew what to do. Sri Rama presently dressed himself as a hermit and, bowing his head to his parents, departed. Having completed all the equipments and preparation for the journey to the woods, the Lord with his spouse and brothers bowed to the feet of the Brahmans and then preceptors Vashishta and departed, leaving everyone in bewilderment. Issuing out of palace, the party halted on at Vashishta's door and found the people scorched with the fire of impending separation. The hero of Raghu race comforted all with soothing words and then summoned host of the Brahmans. He requested his preceptor to give them substance for a year and captivated their heart through courtesy, gifts, and humility. He gratified mendicants with gifts and attentions and seated his friend with pure love. He then called his men servants and the maid servants and entrusting them to the care of his guru, spoke to him with joined palms. My lord, pray look after them and tend them as their own father and mother. Again and again, with joined palms, Sri Rama addressed each one present there in a soft accent. Hereon is friendly to me in every way, through whose God office the kings derive solace, whose good offices the king derived alone is friendly to me in every way. Sri Rama addressed each present there in the software. Is alone friendly to me in every way, through whose good office the kings derived solace. Take care, all of you, my most clever citizen, to see that none of my mother is smitten with the peonage of separation from me. In this way, Sri Rama consolidated all the cheerful bowed his head at his the lotus feet of his preceptor, invoking Lord Ganpati, Goddess Gauri, Parvati, and Lord of Kailasha, and receiving the blessing of his Guru, the Lord of Raghu proceeded further. There are a great lamentation as he sailed forth. The piteous wail of the citizens was revolting to the ears. Evil omen appears in the Lanka, and Ayodhya was plunged in grief, while the abode of God was overcome with the mixed feeling of joy and the sorrow. When the spell of the unconsciousness broke, the king woke and calling Sumantra thus began, Rama has left for the wood, but my life refuses to depart. I wonder what joy it seeks after by clinging to this body. What agony were severe than this can I have that will drew my dream breath out of my body. Then recovering himself, the king said, follow him, my friend, with your carrot. Two tender bodies are the two princes, and the delicate frame is Janka's daughter. Pick them up of the carrot, show them round the forest, and return after 3 or 4 days. If the two strong-minded brothers refuses to return, for the Lord of Raghu in true to the word and firm of resolve, then do you enter and entreat him with the joint palm, my lord. Kindly send back the daughter of the Mithila's king. When Sita gets frightened at the sight of the jungle, avail yourself of that opportunities and tell her my advice in the following words. The parents of your husband have sent this message to you. Please return home, my daughter. There is much hardship in the forest now with your parents and now in your husband's home. Stay wherever you please. In this way, try all possible means. If she come back, there will be the support of to my life. Otherwise, all this will end in my death. Nothing can avail against an adverse fate. So saying, the king dropped unconscious on the ground, exclaiming, bring Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita and show them to me. Receiving the king's command, Sumantra bowed his head to him and having got ready a most swift chariot, went to the outskirts of the city where Sita and the two princely brothers were. Then Sumitra delivered to them the king's message, and with humble submissions persuaded Sri Rama to ascend the carrots. Having mounted the carrot, Sita and the two brothers set out on their journey, mentally bowing their head to the Ayodhya. Finding Ayodhya masterless with the departure of Yashwanta delivered the king's message and with humble submission persuaded Sri Rama to ascend the carrot. Having mounted the carrot, Sita and the two brothers sent out on their journey, mentally bowing to their head to Ayodhya. Finding Ayodhya masterless with the departure of Sri Rama, all those who have assembled there followed in their wake with a agitated mind. Sri Rama remonstrated in many ways, an ocean of compassion that he was, and the crowd turns homewards. But dragged by the affection they bore for him, they came back and joined the Party once more. Ayodhya presented Sri Ramanuja in many ways an ocean of coin that he was. The crowd turned homeward, but backed by the affection they bore him, they came back and joined the party once more. They presented a most dismal appearance as though it were a dark night of the filial dissolutions of the universe. The men and women of the city looked like ghastly creatures and were frightened to see one another. Their houses appeared like so many crematories, their retainers like ghosts, and the son's relations and friends like messenger of death. Trees and creepers in the garden whitened, while streams and ponds repelled the eyes. The numberless houses and the horse and elephant animal kept for the pleasure, urban cattle, chakura birds, peacock, cuckoo, chakravaka parrots, and the manas, canes, swan, and chakuras. All stood restless due to their separation from Sri Rama. They looked like so many pictures drawn here and there. The cities resembled an extensive and the thick forest full of fruits, and the many men and the women residing there represented so many birds and the beasts. God assigned Kaikeyi the role of the Bila woman who set the whole forest in the fairest place. The people could not bear The people could not bear the fire of the separation from the chief of Raghu, and they all ran away in distress. They all came to this conclusion in their mind: there can be no happiness without Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita. The whole community will live where Rama take up his abode. Without the hero of Raghuresh, we have no business in Ayodhya. Having the firmly business. What do you mean by the business? Business. Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram. Ayodhya, having thus firmly resolved, they followed him, forsaking his happy homes, which were the envy of the god. Can the pleasure of sense overpower those who hold the lotus feet of Sri Rama dear to their heart? Leaving the children and aged people in their homes, all the citizens accompanied Sri Rama, and the Lord of Raghu made his first day halt on the bank of the Tamsa. When the Lord of Raghu saw his people overwhelmed with love, his tender heart was much afflicted. Lord Sri Rama, who is all compassion, is readily touched by the others' pains, addressing them in the affectionate, soft, and agreeable tones. He comforted all in ways more than once. He also gave them varied instruction in their moral duty, that overmastered by love they would not turn back even through urge to return. Sri Rama could not afford to take leave of his amiable disposition and loving nature. The Lord of Raghu thus found himself in a fix, overpowered by grief and toil. The people fell asleep, and the deluding potency of God further helped to benumbed their mind. The 2 watches of night has passed. Sri Rama addressed the ministers in endearing terms. Father, drive the carrot, and in such a way as to leave no tree. By no other means can our object be accomplished. Bowing their head to the feet of the Lord Shambhu Shiva, Sri Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita mounted the car, and the minister Sumitra immediately drove the carrot now in one direction and now in another, thus confusing the track. All the people woke up at daybreak. The Lord of Raghu has gone, they loudly exclaimed. Nowhere could they find the track of the carrot, and ran about in all directions, crying, Rama, O Rama. It seemed as if the bark had foundered in the ocean, as a result of which the party of merchant that had boarded it felt much agitated. Everyone explained to the other how Rama had forsaken them. Perceiving their distress, they commended themselves and praised the fish that died soon as they were taken out of water, and said to one another, a curse on our life without the hero of Raghu race. If God has torn us from our beloved, why did he not vouchsafe that to us on our asking? Thus, walking in variety of ways, they all returned to Ayodhya full of remorse. The anguish of parting was terrible beyond words. Everyone survived in the hope of seeing Rama on the expiry of the term of exile. Men and women alike started religious observance and fast for ensuring Sri Rama's return. They were as miserable as the male and the female Chakraka birds, and the lotus flowers are in the absence of the sun. Accompanied by Sita and the minister, the 2 brothers arrived at Shrangavarapura. Beholding the celestial stream Ganga, Sri Rama alighted from his car and fell prostrate on the ground with great joy. Lakshmana, Sita, and the minister too made obeisance, and Sri Rama rejoiced in common with them all. A fount of all joy and blessing, the Ganga brings all delight and derived away all sorrow. Narrating numerous anecdotes connected with it, Sri Rama gazed on the wave of the Ganga and told the minister, and told the minister his younger brother Lakshmana and his beloved consort the transcendent glory of the celestial stream. They took a plunge in the river, and the fatigue of the journey was gone, and their heart rejoiced when they drank of its holy water. What he that he whose very thought relieves the great toil of transmigration should feel fatigue shows that he imitated the ways of the world. The glory of Sri Rama's race, who is the fountain of the pure existence, knowledge, and the bliss, performed actions similar to those of the human being and which constitute a bridge to cross the ocean of the mundane existence. When Guha the Nishada got the news, he gladly called together his near and dear ones, and taking by way of presents fruits and roots in baskets slung across their shoulders, he proceeded to meet the Lord with infinite joy in his heart, protesting himself on the ground and placing the presents before the Lord. He gazed on him with great affections. The Lord of Raghu, who is won by the natural affection, seated him by his side and inquired about his welfare. The sight of your lotus feet, my lord, is the root of all welfare. I can now count myself as a blessed man. My land, house, and fortune are yours, holy sir. My family and myself are your humble servants. Do me the favor of visiting my town and confer dignity on me. Let everyone envy my lot. Everything you have said is true, my wise friend, but my father has commanded me otherwise. Your father, your 4 years and 10, my home shall be the woods, and my mode of life, dress, and food shall be in that of the hermit. Hence, my slaying in the village would be hardly advisable. Goha was deeply distressed to hear this. Beholding the beauty of the Sri Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita, men and women of the village, feeling sad, what sort of parents or friend can they be who have sent such children to the forest? Other people said the king has done well in that God has thereby rewarded our eyes. The chief of Nishada then pondered within himself, and perceiving a charming Ashoka tree, he took the Lord of Raghu to the spot and showed it to him. And Sri Rama declared that the place was beautiful in every way. The people of the town then returned home after paying their respect to him, while the chief of Raghu retired to performing his evening devotion. In the meantime, Guha prepared a soft and beautiful bed of kusha grass and tender leaves and spread it on the ground. He also placed beside him cup of leaves, sakars delicious and soft, full of fruit, roots, and water. Having partaken of the bulbs, roots, and fruits, along with Sita, Sumantra, and his brother Lakshmana, the of Raghuresh lay down to sleep while his brother kneaded his feet. When Lakshmana perceived uh, that his lord has fallen asleep, he rose and asked the minister in soft accent to retire. As for himself, he got ready in his bow and arrow, and sitting at some distance in the posture of the hero, he kept watch. Guha called his trusted watchmen and stationed them at different points with great love, while he himself went and took his seat beside Lakshmana with a quiver fastened to his vest and an arrow fitted to his bow. And the Nishada chief saw his lord lying on the bed of grass and leaves. He felt great sorrow in his heart due to excess of love. The hair of his body bristled, tears flowed from the eyes, and he addressed the following affectionate words to Lakshmana. The king's palace is naturally charming. Even Indra's residence can hardly stand comparison with it. It's beautiful at ease and the built of precious gems, and are so lovely as through as the god of love has constructed them with his own hands. free from impurities, exceedingly marvelous of design, abounding in exquisite luxuries, and scented with the fragrance of flowers. They are furnished with lovely beds and lightened with gems and full of amenities of every description, free from impurities, exceedingly marvelous of design, abounding in exquisite luxuries, marvelous design, and abounding beds lightened with gems as well as amenities of every description. Again, they are equipped with the covertless and sheets, pillows, and cushions of the various kinds of all sort, white and the charming as the fourth of milk. It is it is in such attics that Sita and the Rama used to sleep at night, and humbled by their beauty, the pride of Rati and her consort, the god of love. Those very Sita and Rama are now laying on pallet, exhausted and uncovered, a sight one cannot bear to see. The same Lord Rama, who his father and mother, his own family, and the people of the city, his good natured companions, man servants, and the maid servant, all cherished as their own life, sleep on the ground. Nay, Sita, whose father Janka is famed throughout the world, whose father-in-law is King Dashratha, the chief of Raghu and ally of the Indra, and whose spouse is Ramchandra, is lying on the ground, and adverse fate spares none. Do Sita and the hero of Raghura's deserve to be exalted to the wood? They rightly said, fate is supreme. The foolish daughter of Kakya has wrought a cruel mischief in that she has thrown trouble to the Sita and delighted of Raghura's at the time of enjoyment. The weak woman has played the axe in felling the tree of the solar race and plunged the whole universe in woe. The Nishada chief was so distressed to see Rama and Sita sleeping on the ground. Lakshmana spoke to him sweet and the gentle word imbedded with the nectar of wisdom, dispassion, and devotion. No one is the source of delight or pain to another. Everyone reap the fruit of its own action, brother. Union and separation, pleasurable and the painful experiences, friends, foes, and neutrals, snare of delusions are these. Even so, birth and death, prosperity and adversity, destiny and time, and all the illusions of the world, lands, houses, wealth, town and family, heaven and hell, and all the phenomena of the world, nay, whether it is seen, heard, or thrown off with the mind, has its roots in ignorance. Nothing exists in reality. Suppose in a dream a king become a pauper, and a pauper become lord of paradise. On awakening, the one does not gain, nor does the other lose anything. So must you look upon this world. Reasoning thus, be not angry, nor blame anyone in vain, anyone in vain, nor blame anyone in vain. Not blame anyone in vain. Everyone is slumbering in the night of delusion, and while asleep one see dream of the various kinds. In this night the mundane existence is it is the yogis mistakes alone who keep awake, yogis who are the quest of the highest truth and remain aloof from the world. A soul should be deemed as having awoke from the night of the world only when he develop a aversion for the enjoyment of the world of senses. It is only when right understanding comes that the error of delusion disappears, and then alone one develops love for the feet of Sri Rama, the Lord of Raghu. O friend, the highest spiritual goal is this, to be devoted to the feet of Sri Ramas in thought, words, and deed. Sri Rama is no other than the Brahma God, the supreme reality, unknown, imperceptible, beginningless, incomparable, free from all change, and beyond all diversity. The Vedas ever speak of him in negative terms, not this. For the sake of his devotee, earth, the Brahmans, earth, devotee earth, the Brahmans, cows, and gods. The Brahmans, cows, and the gracious Lord take the form of man and perform action by hearing of which the snares of the world are broken. Snare of the world are broken as asunder. Snare. Snare means, what do you mean by the snare? Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram. Snare. Snare means snare. 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 Snare means, what do you mean by the snare? Snare. 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 Snare means Shri Ram, 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 Shri Ram. Snare. Snare means all hunting or surgery. A troop of catching birds. Snare. Hunting means snare, and surgery. Snare. Surgery. Music. A trap of catching birds or mammal, typically of having noose in wire or cord. Snare. Snare of this world. Shri Ram, 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 Shri Ram.